a wonderful person, my good friend Tony.
For the peace of your soul, mountains for business. Dubai.
Are you meditating right now?
I have sociologists, numerologists, astrologers, regression therapists, and tarot readers.
What is experience?
Pictures are drawn of what is right and what is wrong.
Where feel more comfy?
I was talking to my son back then. Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin.
Your kids watch YouTube, like you said, all these videos.
I even asked ChatGPT, if my kids use ChatGPT, will it be good or bad?
How did you manage to get that?
To know what positivity is, you need to experience negativity.
What are your goals?
Family comes first. Family comes first.
Who were you in your past life?
Why do you shoot so easily? And I say I was a hunter in my past life.
Do you remember any of the hardest challenges in your life?
I even wanted to cry a little.
What did it give you then? How did it help you?
We all came from silence at first. In silence, images immediately come to my mind of what kind of person came into my life, what game they played, and for what purpose. Wow.
Hello everyone, this is Igor Sivov and you're on my podcast. And today I want to touch on a topic that is probably important for both adults and children, for everyone living in the modern world. These are modern technologies, artificial intelligence, IT technologies, but the most important thing is that behind all of this are people. And today I have a wonderful person, my good friend Tony Katz. Hi. Hi, dear. I'll be honest with you, it's not quite usual for me to see you here, because you're one of those people who doesn't really appear in the media space. You have your own path. You're probably deep in your life, alone with your family. And for me, it's really nice that you're here because you have something to share with everyone, both those who don't know you and those who do. I have a question for you, and the first question I want to ask you is this. What was your dream, your aspiration, when you were just 7 years old?
When I was 7 years old, I didn't actually have a dream. I had a goal.
What was your goal?
To be a businessman?
You mean exactly at 7 years old?
I didn't have a specific dream back then.
So you wanted to be a businessman to succeed?
I just knew it, yeah. But dreams, back then, it was probably still hard to form a dream.
How did you work to your goal of becoming a businessman? 7 years old, 1900s. We're almost the same age.
I started buying plastic gun pellets at the market when I was about 8 or 9 and selling them to neighbors who couldn't go that far. That's something that's 2 or 3 times more expensive.
So you bought the pellets and sold them for more?
I bought them for 2 rubles and sold them for 5 rubles.
Was that when you were 10?
At 8 or 9, maybe.
What did you do next?
Oh, that's it. If I think back, I was always buying and selling something. I just always liked speculation.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's why I liked buying and selling things, little trinkets, to save up some capital. Because when Dad went to the store and bought something for my brother and me, like yogurts, chips, or something, I said, "Are you going to buy this for us?" He says, "Yeah, I recorded it once, 7 rubles 15. I said, "I'll put all this back in its place." I told my brother to give all those goods to him, and I said, "Put the money in the cash register for me." I managed to save up some amount.
Once again, that is, you didn't take it from your dad.
Money.
So you didn't take goods, perhaps? Didn't take gifts?
Well, yeah, for example, Pringles for my brother, Pringles for me.
You're saying Dad bought Pringles your brother?
For me, and 18 goes into my account. My brother didn't care anyway because she shared later.
Okay.
And I was getting money in the cash register.
I can tell you that my middle son did exactly the same when he was 8 years old, and now he's 10. We had an agreement that once a month I would have the kids. We agreed that we would buy toys once a month so they wouldn't get too spoiled. You know, I want this, I want that. So he would go to the store once a month and could pick out whatever he wanted. A basket, conditionally, yeah. This didn't last long. When he would pick things out once a month, then he said, "Dad, stop. Let's do it this way. How much does your basket roughly cost?" I said, "Well, it's about this much." He said, "You know, let's not buy me anything more, perhaps just transfer money to my account. Or if possible, let me manage my own money, please."
He was 8 years old, right? Yeah, just like that.
And then he bought himself a phone. And everything else you're talking about now. And what happened next?
So you were taking 7 rubles. I saved up some amount, a few thousand, and then I came. Well, my dad just gave me the opportunity to do that. So yes, that's how I came to him. You buy and sell some power tools there. Take me along. Let's go in on one power tool. He was traveling to Rostov, then to another place. And the profit was split in half, meaning he didn't record any costs or expenses for me, but we divided the net profit equally.
You did that.
And so over the years, something grew for me. I even had a cash register, but I always used that money to buy what I wanted. A phone, a PlayStation, some headphones, a cool gadget, 512 megabytes or gigabytes, whatever it was back then. In general, I bought some equipment, a Rottweiler dog for 5,000 rubles. With that money, I bought jeans, sneakers, not just anything but from the cash register. Accountability under signature. There was this kind of game between me until a certain age. I don't remember exactly when I completely burned out. Something serious happened. I went right away, bought it, and slaughtered the whole duck. And that's how the game just turned into something I really enjoyed. At one point he asked, "Why do you think that the first 5 tools we sold were the ones from our stock, considering we bought 50 power tools? Maybe yours and mine are lying down in turn," and he started putting sticks in my wheels. I said, "Why are you starting this? We were getting along just fine."
What do you think, in your opinion, in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving modern world? Because what you're describing really seems more characteristic of those who were born in the dynamic 20th century. Kids think a bit differently now. What do you think? Would your kids act like that now, or would it be different? How do you see them starting to earn money for their own work? How would you see that?
I think it has changed, but not significantly. I also have a son who is only 8 years old now. He has already started to think this year. I transfer some amount of money to his card. He has this ruble card there. Yes, he has his own. But here he only has one with his sister from Durhan. And they were just top spenders in the last few years without any discernment on all sorts of nonsense, right? Now he's already started, I see, more economically, already planning for something there. He himself broke some pole at a ski resort, paid for it himself. Now he's trying to resell some skins in the game to other classmates. That is, he's trying. Only all of this is already there in games, virtually, on phones. That's where it's moved. If we didn't have that, we were reselling something physical. So he realized that he needs to earn money, that he needs something, and he's asking me for some amount so he can flip it, buy some weapons, and then resell them to his classmates for a higher price. So he's kind of cheating in a big way, but he's being clever within the limits of what he has on the table, coming up with some ideas. So I think the same is possible if he doesn't have the desire for it.
Kolya, we touched on the topic of kids, and as a father of 4, I really enjoy this topic.
Magnificent.
And I know how you are too. Dad, by the way, you're one of the...
I have 2 for now.
Yes, this is one of the first ones. He touched my book in terms of having read it. I remember that was a few years ago. You took my book and I think Tolya Suprugov, and she does too. Yes, we read it. And the topic of children is very important to me because I invest a lot of my time and attention into it. So tell me, please, what do you see happening in the world today with your kids? There's a lot of artificial intelligence, and many kids today don't want to study because the education they're getting isn't really comfortable or clear for them. Kids are definitely much faster and smarter now than we were at their age. So in your opinion, what do you think? Do modern technologies like artificial intelligence and IT potentially harm children in any way, or can they help them and be beneficial?
Well, this question has been bothering me for the last 6 months because about 4 months ago, I gave my son access to artificial intelligence and then I said, talk to it.
You gave him access to AI?
Yes, right on the iPad. We connected everything there. We connected ChatGPT, voice settings, so he could record his questions and a girl answers him. He was suffocating it for 2 days. He was suffocating it with all sorts of questions. Then we let our daughter test it. She also suffocated it for 1 day, then got tired of it. So, they grabbed it and didn't leave it all day. We were chatting there. Sorry, I need to go eat, thank you. He said, wait, I need to do my homework. I'll definitely come back to you. Thank you for answering my questions. The artificial intelligence says to him, I'm listening. And I'm thinking, wow, what an intelligent response. So he's still being polite with it. And I was trying to understand the pros and cons. There are definitely a lot of advantages. I even asked part of GPT, I think, a month ago. I asked, if my kid's aged 8 to 12, use ChatGPT, will that be good or bad? He also listed the pros and cons and said that it's better to combine them 50-50 because there are advantages that accelerate development. It's like having your own personal encyclopedia. You don't need to read or watch all of that. He wanted to know where Venus or Mars is. She told him how many stars there are. She told him right away. Instantly, by the time mom and dad remember it, Google it themselves, find the right answer and tell them the desire will already be gone. Instantly. The neurons are working and that's the right answer. So, 99% chance to guess. But there are downsides that, for example, will always hinder the development of thinking. In the form of, for example, some fantasies, to draw something, to create something, because there will be a habit that this one can draw a good picture, come up with a cool poem, write a book or something else. So there will always be the opinion that, artificial intelligence makes things too easy, which is why it needs to be balanced, like 50-50. But I don't know where to find that balance yet. But I know that it needs to be about 50-50. It's definitely a plus. The child who doesn't use artificial intelligence now will be much less smart in just 3 years. Oh, definitely. A lot, because they soak up information like a sponge. Either he'll be watching reels with some nonsense, like someone throwing candies around, or he understands that artificial intelligence will talk about serious matters.
Tell me, do your kids watch YouTube? Like you said, all those videos where they unbox different toys and candies?
Sometimes. When you don't keep an eye on them, yeah, they watch.
Do they like them?
Well, of course they like it. But they absorb too much unnecessary stuff from there.
What do you think? Because you're one of the pioneers, probably, well, in my opinion, I might not be very strong in this, but in my view, you're one of the pioneers who started to engage with certain IT technologies in the business field. So you used various companies, looked around, created, and you had a lot going on there. We're not going to stray away from that. In the field you're involved in, finance and business, I want to know from that perspective, when you started to see the potential of IT technologies that give you opportunities, how old were you then, and how did you manage to catch on to that? Because as far as I know, not everyone understood what it was all about back when you started.
Well, not everyone, but a certain number of people. I started in 2017, and it was related to crypto, to bitcoins, and getting into that. My wife actually pushed me saying, go learn, invest $500 in this scam or pyramid scheme. Whatever it was back then, it was unclear. At that time, I just realized that these are very serious mathematical calculations that will eventually lead us to the world that I envisioned. And what I saw back then in 2019, already 2 years later, no, in 2018, in October, I made the decision to get various financial licenses to obtain that first cryptocurrency license in Dubai 4 years ago. I understood that this would come. And now, if we take Russia as an example, starting from the first of the month, Bitcoin is considered an asset, just like an apartment. So in 2017, the bankers who knew me in Moscow were saying that this was some kind of nonsense, that no one was investing in it. So I flew to Switzerland in 2019 and opened a company there with a share capital in Bitcoins and showed it to the bankers. Look, you think it's a scam, but Switzerland allows you to deposit money in cryptocurrencies instead of francs to open a company as capital. Back then it was still like that, yeah, and I've been paying taxes in crypto in Switzerland for 5 years now. Even now, many developed crypto enthusiasts there don't know that this is possible. I say I've been doing this for 5 years already, taxes in Zug. Crypto. So I understood back then that this was the direction things were going, that it would develop regardless. And I would tell my son, Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. So he would understand it and get used to it. And now they already have a normal attitude towards it. There's crypto, Bitcoin, technologies, artificial intelligence. It's all just normal for them.
So, what do you think? If we take a child, like you mentioned regarding artificial intelligence, when you interact with them, there's a certain creativity that disappears in the child, a certain outlook, maybe even philosophy. Here too, from the perspective of earning money for oneself. What do you think if kids start investing now, learning, like buying for 50 and selling for 100, for 100, for 100, for 100, for 100? Will he gain all the experience he can get if he does this, earning for his work, exactly for the work?
In any case, it's an experience, and you have to go through the trials. Every person has their own line of trials. They will lead a person to where they need to go through. What kind of experience, what understanding will he gain? It doesn't matter, it's in the shooting games or in some online shooters. The hurt from disappointment when a friend lets you down or deceives you, it doesn't matter what instrument it is, this emotion that he needs to experience or at 8, 10, 15, 20 or 30 when some partner lets him down. It's all about emotions and practice. So if they are needed for something further, for achieving something after 30, then he will definitely gain them. So it doesn't matter what it's on, whether it's artificial intelligence, online or physically. But the world is different.
Do you remember any of the hardest trials in your life? You don't have to say it out loud, just what it was about and what was the biggest lesson it taught you.
Listen, I just finished them. It was a 3-year trial from 22 to 24 years old. I just crossed them out of my life. They didn't exist. Although they were quite vivid, but they were mostly just so difficult, terrible.
What does it mean to you now?
After that, when you say you've gone through it, right now for me it's just an amazing experience. And if I had the chance to do it again, I would say I need it. Now I just understand why it's needed. Back then I didn't understand, but now I do.
When you didn't understand, what did you feel? Hurt, fear, misunderstanding, disappointment. What was it like back then?
Well, in the beginning, it was fear, depression, nausea. I could just feel so sick, you know? Of course, it was the misunderstanding of many elements of things, like how this is happening and why. Why me? Why? I had everything calculated, I had everything planned. Why the misfire? And it was a very big, long struggle inside with myself. It didn't just take up the summer of 2022 or the whole year of 2022. It also took up 2023, and then it was catching up in 2024. So these are the years when it turns out that a lot of people, almost everyone on the planet, has gone through some tough trials, different ones. And in the fourth, he brought everyone down, knock, 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 all ready to whoever needed it. So these were tough trials, mostly related to emotions, with the loss of a large sum of money, with the emotions of other people, and the understanding that each of these 1,300 people was given this fate to learn something. They found this out years later. At first, they also had emotions, thinking that all of this shouldn't have happened to them. And after years, it turned out that, damn, if that hadn't happened back then, I wouldn't have met this awful person now. And I have many such stories around me. I'm collecting them. For a book, just a little bit, a little bit.
So if we take your book in the future, right, from the perspective of quantum physics, we conditionally have no future, no past, right? There's just time and here and now. So if you're talking about this book from the perspective of quantum physics, it already exists, it's already there. Well,
But the information is there, collected and organized.
yes, if we imagine this book right now, and in this book there's a chapter about experience, how would you describe experience for you in this life? What is it? How would you convey to the reader what experience is?
Experience is truly an emotionally lived feeling, deeply without which you can't indeed know another emotion, whether it's positive or negative. To know what positive is, you have to experience negative. If you don't know what negativity is, then you can't understand what positivity is. So, in essence, experience is really about essentially involving both negative and positive types of ions.
I would like everyone watching us right now to share what experience means to you. Because every person who lives our life, their life, is certainly going through certain experiences, but not everyone sees it and not everyone realizes that experience is truly meant to help us move to the next level. So we would be happy if you share what experience means to you. And dear.
Expansion, yes, that's right. In order to expand yourself, your consciousness, your inner state, you need to go through it. Without these trials, it's impossible to move forward.
At what time? How old were you when you started to realize this? Right now, you're talking about it.
It was all these 3 years.
So first you had to hit what you might call rock bottom.
Well, not exactly rock bottom, but emotionally quite low, yes. I lost almost $16 million and a huge number of people. Yes, that's in Russian. I don't know how much that is, but it's a lot, probably, yes. And that's a huge loss with a big team, many big projects, yes, and that's why. Then it dragged on for many years, all of it, to untangle everything. Thread by thread, meditating, sitting on a mountain, alone in the forest.
I remember moments when you sent me messages saying that you were meditating. Tell me, when you were in that emotional low state, because many people go through this emotional bottom. Many don't even understand why. So some people just feel nothing brings them joy. Some people don't understand why this is happening to them when it seems like nothing is going right. And now, when you're here and thinking back to that low point, I believe many are watching right now, and some might be in that place at this moment.
And some will soon find themselves there, while others haven't reached that level yet.
So, being here now, after going through that experience, thinking back to that moment when you didn't know, yes, that person didn't know that things could be different, that they could feel differently. What would you wish for yourself back then? The one who went through that experience and lived through that pain and emotional low. What would you recommend to yourself now?
I would recommend myself to engage in more spiritual practices, especially meditation, and try to avoid constant alcohol consumption, even in minimal doses, like having just 1 glass of wine, so to speak, at dinner. Because when I went 8 months without alcohol last year, my brain started working and thinking differently. Especially when you're under stress, under that kind of pressure, when a huge number of people are pushing down on you. Many people in the world couldn't handle it. There are tens, hundreds of thousands of examples where people have jumped from buildings or cut their veins. A lot has been happening. There are many of them, situations we just don't see or hear them. Yes, all these years it was happening because of similar events, and I needed to work on myself. If I were more right from the first days, well, like in 22nd year I start and then I meditate already in Switzerland on the mountain, but not in that way. If I had paid more attention to those practices, specifically to expanding myself from within, like an internal mosaic, so that I could build and fill myself up like Lego, it would have been much more effective. In any case, I needed to go through all of this to understand the exact reasons for why it was given to me. Thanks to the images that appeared in my life over the past 3 years in different situations, I was gathering destinies, and I'm still gathering the destinies of people to compile them into this book. So, this experience had to be gone through. Probably meditation would have helped a lot more.
You know, as you're speaking, I'm feeling such happiness and joy inside, knowing that I'm really talking to a businessman who is going through different stages in his life, just like many people who are in business and in general. And it makes me so happy to hear you talk about spiritual practices and meditation, because right now is the time when many people are realizing that spirituality isn't about going off to the mountains and forgetting about the material world. Because very often we think that the material is right here, while the spiritual is somewhere far away, very far, like in the Himalayas, and that we need to go somewhere for something crazy to happen.
The Himalayas far away.
And now is the moment when many people are truly bringing together the spiritual and the material, just like you're demonstrating right now. And I'm glad that business people are really seeing this now. So from the perspective of someone who has really built certain plans and is now building businesses, what does this state you mentioned, through meditation and calmness, give you? How has it helped you? And how do you continue to engage with it now?
Silence that I love from time to time. I can stay for a month on a mountain, 1,000 meters above sea level, above the clouds, with no one around, not hearing any cars or trains. In the evening, maybe just one light is on at the neighbor's place on the next mountain, and everything else is in darkness. It's just darkness all around, darkness everywhere. So there's no sound at all. It's the perfect atmosphere, and I love spending time there. I could stay for a month, 2, or even 3, but I still come down from the mountain to meet friends somewhere by Lake Zurich. And it is there that I manage to tune in so that in silence I understand that I immediately draw pictures of what is right, what is wrong, what kind of person came into my life, what game he played, why. If I was angry at someone for a long time because they let me down in something, I understood what a valuable lesson they taught me. I thanked them. And as soon as I let go, my energy increased. But there were many people I couldn't let go of until 1924. And then, as soon as I worked through that with myself, it was about figuring it out and gathering myself together. To work through each individual person who was in your life, to understand what they brought to you, to filter some out, analyze others, and thank some. And it's precisely in that kind of solitude in meditation that it happens. And when you're not in solitude, with the constant phone calls, connections, meetings, kids, and family, there's always something going on. You don't have that solitude, and you can't figure things out within yourself, because you're constantly busy with other tasks. And when you remove those tasks, you sit and think about how all the people around you are so good.
You said a very important word that resonates with me a lot, and that is silence, which is actually very important for every person in this world, because when there is silence, it means you allow yourself to be yourself during that time. During that time, you allow yourself not to let thoughts take over, but to just be yourself. So, thoughts that exist outside of our body, outside of our mind, they're everywhere. When they come crashing in, they just don't let us live. When you said the word silence, I want to ask you a question. How important do you really think this silence is, in your opinion, for each person, or truly to each individual?
I think everyone just needs to eat in different amounts. People like to live in a big city. Some people like small towns, yes, but silence is necessary in any case. It calms everyone, because when is there? But I simply believe that we are experiencing the transmigration of souls, and that our souls are immortal. Yes, and that is why I think that everyone first went from silence to hectic movement. Here you need to step back a little, take a break in silence alone, and then return to this game.
How do you experience emotionally online if we start talking about reincarnation? When you think about it, who were you in a past life?
I did regression among a set of specialists like business people. I have sociologists, numerologists, astrologers, regression therapists, and tarot readers. I have had Arsenal in my set since 1980. Well, it wasn't that interesting to me. It was just how I did the analysis. And then, when I saw that all this ends up happening, I understand how it works. Something about it appealed to me, like how certain things work. But I approach everything with skepticism right away. I tend to attack any new thing with negativity. I don't believe in it, whether it's now or before. But you will call it some new one, some new one. I often find myself not believing in something new until I test it myself in my own practice, Aziza. And so I did regression, and like some lives, past lives, there were questions. Why am I like this? I'm from Astrakhan, from the steppes, so why am I constantly drawn to the mountains? Why do I like living there? I couldn't find the answers, but in regressions I did a lot of deep hypnosis and found the answer. I had lived there in many, many of my past lives. And I died there, yes, specifically on a mountain with a view of a lake. Why did I start shooting? Here in Dubai with a sportsmaster, it's so easy to shoot. And I say, I was a hunter in my past life. In my past lives, I say I was a good hunter, so it's not hard for me to hit right away. Bam, bam, I easily hit the targets. Although I can't see far away very well, I still hit the target right on. So you asked who I was, right? That's a question for me. There have been many lives. I haven't watched all of them. When you go through regression, you only see those lives that help you get the answer to the question you had. The answer that you had a question about, and I didn't have a question when I came to her. I spent 2 years looking for a regression therapist. And while I was going around to everyone, they said, what is your request? What is it? I said, I don't know. Everything is good for me. Everything is great in my life, in every aspect. I said, I don't have any problematic areas that I could point out. I just want to do it for myself, for the experience. And when everyone was asking questions, I came to her and did this hypnosis. And then, only later when I saw all these pictures of different lives, the story then sat with her drinking tea. She says, this. And I'm thinking all the time, I still haven't told you why I'm so drawn to live in the mountains of Switzerland. Why do I love it there? Why do I feel comfortable there? Solitude, tarot readers. Everyone else says that the mountains are for the peace of your soul, while Dubai is for business. So I have this combination, 6 years, 50-50, going back and forth. So who was I there as an ordinary lumberjack? In the mountains? That's why I feel perfect there. When I walk through the forest, picking some mushrooms and then frying up some potatoes, I feel absolutely great there.
And if you compare the mountains, and when you come back here to the action, would it be more comfortable here?
Of course, I feel more comfortable there. When I come here, I feel clean after the mountains because there I cleanse myself. There are no dirty, negative entities around me. In the forest, they're not there. They're different, pure. The energy is pure. I come here feeling clean, and I find some places unpleasant when I walk around where there are a lot of people. I can feel it right away. The vibrations, there are some drunks, drug addicts, I don't know, party people who don't sleep at night. What I used to observe there, I don't like it. I try to stay away, like on a palm tree, watching it all from a distance. I don't really like mass events. Well, it depends on the nature of it. If it's a cultural gathering, that's great. But if it's some kind of huge party or disco with 500 people...
I won't go. How do you feel about it? To the technologies that are currently being developed in terms of, again, meditation, there are virtual glasses and special sounds that help people use technology to enter a certain state. So, without any drinks or otherworldly substances, a person can connect with themselves through meditation on their own. And now they are inventing, again, virtual glasses so that the person can immerse themselves. How do you feel about this in terms of how necessary it is for a person, either a person should learn to enter a meditative state on their own without any gadgets?
They should do it themselves, but they won't be able to. That's what books, practices, and people are for. They help everyone else. It's like you said, some kind of liquids someone drank, and that creates a stressful situation for them. He's feeling nauseous or something's happening to him, he overate or something, and he's going somewhere. The same goes for the glasses. In a stressful situation, the eyes see certain images. It can also be sound. Some people connect through sound vibrations, some through visuals with their eyes, and some through personal sensations. In general, a person should learn to do this on their own, but it's really difficult. It's hard, I don't know. Well, maybe some people manage it, but it's really difficult to get there. You need to shake someone up, maybe through financial stress or a situation or a whole bunch of other things. He has to come to that. So I think that's normal. The main thing is that sooner or later he will learn to do it on his own and say, I'm not interested in this anymore. I want to do it differently. I just sat there
You meditating right now?
I ate too often, even sometimes it's even 3, 4, or 5 times a week.
Do the kids meditate with you?
Not yet.
Do you meditate without them?
For now, no. Well, they're playing Roblox games. It's hard to get them to do it for now. I don't know how to do this for now. Maybe you can come up with something and share it.
I can share with you that when I meditate or do my morning practices, the kids see it. And they started probably about 3 years ago. First, Serafima came up, then Miron. So they just came and sat down. So they didn't ask me how.
I didn't explain to them.
They just sat down, put their legs out, sat down, and started breathing. Then they ran around and then sat down again. Right now, they're learning about breathing. So they ask, Dad, you're breathing, show us how. So they just see it.
It's a good skill, and that's great. The more kids like that there are, the more normal it will be for them to deal with it in schools. The most they can do is just sit like this.
I was just at the meeting with my kids. At school, I went to the teacher, and she was talking about my child. Both ways. She says, I'm very curious. The teacher asked me, how do your kids stay so calm all the time? So she says, are observing next to me. Simba is sitting, Serafima. I say, well, I taught my kids that when something is going on in their lives and they feel like crying, or if emotions hit them, they start to breathe, the students, in the sense of breathing. It means breathing is like a game. Serafim, show me how you breathe when you have some emotion. At the beginning, they started to breathe slowly. A bad emotion, any bad emotion comes in, and you need to calm it down, so you start to breathe slowly. And like this. That's something you always do. Yes, any negative emotion that I find unpleasant, I start to breathe through it. It is very clear, you don't always have to do this, but when, especially if I'm next to someone, I immediately say, son, and remember breathing. I myself already know and will start breathing. And I'm sure that what you're sharing now will not only resonate with your kids, but soon your companions will start asking too. Please share, serve.
You share. The thing is, whether you want to or not, you end up telling a little bit. For all these years, Beji, I tried to hide it because I was scared. As people will say about there in astrology, it moves there. Somehow something is abnormal. Not everyone will understand this, but after these 18, almost 7 years, I even have there the end of Russia in one country. A few years ago, I got a number for an astrologer, and now I only study with her. For example, sometimes certain elements hit 100% accuracy, and when that happens, a person starts to think about it. Yes, and that's why I have about 300 contacts for astrologers over all this time. Maybe 200, 300, or even 500. It's a lot. Yeah. I got some numbers for some regressologists and others. You share, you talk about it, and they take it in. I've noticed that my friends around me are already calling. We're both 8s. I say, you have a real estate agency. You're a businessman. It seems like 3 months ago he would have never said that. I guess I've already annoyed him. He has already figured it out himself. He has read ChatGPT. He says, I'm an 8, Rockefeller is an 8, you're an 8, Mendeleev is an 8, Larry Page is an 8. So here we are, he says, we're like this. So people around you start to come in either to this or they infect each other. Something useful and good. If they like it, it also distracts them. For those who don't resonate with it, it can take a long time to break through. So someone has been breaking through with me for 7 years, and then suddenly I start to believe all of it. At least, but especially for Muslims, it's hard for them to believe in all this. My brother too, his wife is very religious, and they are quite far from it all. But little by little, each person gets to some aspect that resonates with them, as you say. What do you think?
With modern technologies, like we talked about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, astrologers, numerologists, tarot readers, they all provide certain information. If all this information, it's clear that many people read it, but if all this information, if you upload it into artificial intelligence, it will be able to replace people who will start telling you about yourself again through numbers, through astrology.
It's easy, we're already doing it. Yeah, the artificial intelligence app. Because I encountered it myself, I started using ChatGPT until 4 a.m. I was diving into Tibetan astrology, decoding my chart. Well, it turns out that this year is supposed to be my luckiest year, by the way. At the maximum level of luck. By the way, the 21st and the 17th were like that. I started to dive into it with him using different terms. If we don't go too deep into Tibetan astrology, he was giving me information, pulling it out. I realized that there isn't an app where you can just input my date of birth, the city where I was born, and he won't give everything at once. You have to gather it piece by piece from one astrologer. I asked this other professional for a timeline of 86 years for 26 years of astrology practice, and there are 3 of them. Let's say higher education isn't about the money. It's not for that at all. It doesn't matter if you pay or not. It's about how much you want. So this is a different level of astrology. That's why, there's this nice old lady, and her main task is to fill in the game of Garmisi. It helps people in different ways. And so she did some things, but after that, it's already hard for her. But it would be great to digitize her knowledge, because all these young people, they just don't get it. And everything that numerologists are doing right now, well, ChatGPT can tell you that too. He's already processing all this information. Maybe they can add some uniqueness, an interesting feature, real people, right? Based on personal experience, because they communicate with real people. But basically, overall, this app, you can get all the information for about $20, $30. Just read it. In English and Russian, you know everything. If you want, you can ask about this here. That's why we're also working on these apps right now, thinking about how to connect them.
Well, how to put it, when there's a connection with the app, with artificial intelligence, but without a human, it doesn't push us away into some kind of, isolation where we stop communicating with each other. We stop getting information from people, and instead we get information from artificial intelligence.
A person who will give you a creative boost to that knowledge. And artificial intelligence will basically tell you all your problems. But let's say she has some experience of her own, she'll tell you about it. Here, I have it there. For example, there wasn't much experience, but she will share it. A woman took out a loan and couldn't pay it off for many years. I looked at her and said, you need to fly to Chelyabinsk for your birthday. Everything changes. All the following 12 months of your life, if you celebrate your birthday at that time, at the exact hour, in a different city. I had years where I counted 20 cities with her. And what if I fly to Milan for my birthday, or if I go to Zurich? I change my birthday based on an improved state during the year. There are some things that don't change. They're still written down. You can squeeze them for a maximum of 3 months, but it will still come true. And so she advised her to go to Chelyabinsk. She went to Chelyabinsk, celebrated her birthday, and then came back just for her birthday. She spent some time at the airport. So she had to be in that zone, and when she returned, all her problems were solved, just like that. Why does this question remain a mystery? It's debatable whether it was the woman's own mindset or the account itself that worked. But the loan got complicated, which she couldn't pay off for 5 years. And that's in addition to that. Grandmothers. From above, an artificial track will never add such a feature.
But that's why, in any case, communication with a person that has knowledge, it will always remain.
It's definitely about surpassing a little bit. But again, it's like creativity. Just like my friend is trying to digitize right now, the judicial practices of a small country in the CIS. He recently flew with the chief judge and talked. They have an initiative there. On one hand, it's good to digitize judicial practices, but there are also downsides to all of this. So one thing is the creativity of the judge, his intuition, his instincts. Make a decision. Another thing is the standards. That will be done by artificial intelligence. And here, for now, there are some questions about how it will turn out. For example, our friend Sergei Polonsky believes that, on the contrary, the judicial system should be digitized. That would be fairer and more decent. But there are also questions about where a person can still feel something, sense something different, pick up on some energy, while this robot will think strictly according to algorithms.
What do you know about this? I have so many questions for you coming in. I'm currently catching questions that I can quickly throw at you so we can fit everything into an hour. I would like to ask you the next question at a level that many businessmen, of course, those who are in business, not just doing their favorite thing, they face burnout. They deal with the fact that there are wives, husbands, children, and everyday life. And somehow all of this needs to be balanced, because it's clear that in the modern world, a person spends a huge amount of time and invests a lot into their work, into what they do. That's how you are. Can you talk about yourself? I know that we all go through this, certain lessons. And how do you start balancing this now, today, in terms of harmony? In the family, in relationships, and so on. So what does it mean for you as someone who is in business? What does it mean to you to be, as you say, yourself in silence, but at the same time,
putting yourself first for your family. family first, that's the most important thing. Once you get that sorted, everything else isn't necessary. I often found myself in various states, and I realized that the most important thing, the first thing, is family. So no amount of money and no Rolls Royces, yachts, or helicopters will give you that. You are happy with the state that your family, wife, money, and so on give you, only if that's not there. I even feel skeptical about partners or people who don't have children or a family. So I start to have questions about them, about what they do in life and what's not right with them. So that's the most important thing. And the rest, I just cleared my space. In general, life cleaned itself up over the course of 22 to 24 years. A lot of people, and I did the right thing. So I filtered out all the unnecessary people because they all came into my life to play a game with me. Some kind of game so that I could learn something. I did something for them that we need to figure out what lesson this is, whether it's good or bad. And fate has already cleared out a lot of people, and that's cool. And only the coolest people are left, let's say, in my circle. So, really cool, powerful people, even stronger, or they've stepped up their game. So, because of that, I cleared things out and I just control my time. There's just a lot of garbage, especially in Dubai. And that's why it's better to filter people based on different criteria. I just set up criteria for myself. So there's time left for sports and yoga, and for planning and for business. You don't actually need a lot of time for business if you're coming up with ideas and working on them. If you have a cool, awesome team, then you don't need to spend much time here.
That's very important. You're saying good things because I have a lot of clients who say, Igor, I have so much time right now. I spend my time working, investing in it. I don't have any free time right now to go meditate or just take a walk. You just said the opposite while doing the same business. So for the people watching us right now who have this problem of constantly...
It means you need to change the team.
Okay, but if he doesn't have the opportunity to change teams, or if he doesn't have a team and he's alone, what would you recommend?
Assemble a team. I have a couple of friends like that. They need to gather teams and delegate. I say, you're burning out, you're earning, but you're burning out too much. You just need to gather teams and give people a lot to do. I say, you're just awesome generals on your own. Well, create a mini army because they've hit a wall and aren't growing. They earn really well, but they want some space for living, for enjoyment, and it's just work. Because they are afraid to give someone else a chance, they think that no one can handle it as well as they do.
So about those people, you're talking about the ones you call generals from the perspective that a general of their business, yes, they generate and they have financial stability. Seeing them, what do you think? Does he have harmony with himself?
It's hard. They are constantly getting sick, they have excess weight, and wrinkles appear earlier. So they are overworking, they focus on just one hand, and don't engage with all the other parts. There are friendship, family, health, spiritual practice, and social significance. Everything needs to work together. So, their balances aren't that great. You need to get into this.
But these, your friends see you, they ask,
listen, dear, tell me how to come to this balance. Not always at first they don't ask. And then, when they see changes, they start asking. There is time needed, that is, who I say, do it now. He may not feel it.
And in 2 or 3 years, he'll say, come on, tell me. But 3 years ago, he should have started working on it. I have clients like that too, who come to me and I say, we need to start right now. And they say, right now, I can't. I have these issues, these problems. I just don't have the time. And then they come back after a year or 2 or sometime later. They came before that.
Its own time. Everything has its own time, so everyone finds what they need at their own pace. Each path is different. You can't try to force everyone into your own line.
We started by remembering you when you were 7 years old.
I don't have such a good memory. But in hypnosis, she also, by the way, took me somewhere, and after 7 years, I kind of fell into it. I thought, when we finished the regression, that we had been sitting and talking for 15 minutes. I was sitting like this on the chair when I came to, because we were doing hypnosis in a chair. I was afraid to go deep while lying down. Hypnosis, as they say, is the next level of practice. And an hour, I thought it was 15 minutes. So I was flying around there
So that boy at 7 years old who had goals, who started to feel that he had this entrepreneurial spirit, this business sense, and now, how old are you now?
36.
Well, I'm 36 now. What are your goals?
I have a lot of goals this year. 30. I was 29. 30, they are very big. I'll probably tell you the main thing, that I want to write a book. Cool. And this year, in August, to release it on Amazon. Cool. Tomorrow I have a call with London at 9. Publishers there in New York, in London. The first book, and I'm aiming for it right away. So I'm not going, what will the book be called? In English. But in Russian, the sword of Damocles is in each of us. About destinies. About the sword of Damocles that hangs over each of us. And in complex situations, at work, in your profession, in business, in relationships, in love, and simultaneously in friendships. The person is directed in different ways. Some people lead them in a good direction, while others lead them in another. Who perceives lessons differently, and what should we learn from them? I've been accumulating all these stories, not just my own, but others as well, and I'm still gathering them now as I'm planning the book. If we have time, then let's start being in English this summer, and then we'll switch back to English.
And let's turn to the feedback about the bigger things for our viewers today who are watching this podcast, and let's make a gift. It's not against me that I don't mind giving me a gift. You'll give me a gift. And for those who can answer a question or make comments, let's do it this way. You write, we will leave here now a description of where you can find a wonderful person for me, Anton. You write to him in the comments, and Anton will choose how many of the first 10 copies this person is willing to give away personally. Give away 5 or however many. I'm ready to gift the viewers 100. 100.
Yes, I have a PlayStation 5 and 10.
I'm happy to give away there. There's a score for Larry Ventivilla in Africa from your family, of course. It will be revealed, yes. It needs to be shared with 100 people who will go to Anton's page. Leave comments like his posts, what he does, and let's see if they might write it here under your podcast.
Comments. Yes, let's do it here. We'll just find them easier later.
Let's do it this way. For podcasts, write as many comments as possible from the point of view of why you need this particular book. Write down why you need this book. And then Anton will choose 100 people, and you'll receive a personal book from him with his autograph. The first 100 copies. Wow.
Okay. This book will be needed by everyone. I try to find a solution for every person, whether they're from Africa, Europe, the CIS, or India. There were different, life-changing, complex situations, and how they or their families behaved in those situations, and who chose a path that they came to terms with, which later turned out well for them. And those who still can't figure it out are choosing the wrong side in all these fateful decisions, precisely fateful. You know, people were losing apartments and houses. You know what has been happening in recent years? I've received so many photos where there are just no walls or anything else. These are from different countries. Not only that, CS countries. That's why I'm trying to make it resonate with every person and help them get through their difficult situation more easily. Because when you know about those other 100 stories, you can relate one of them to yourself, and it becomes easier to understand how to move forward correctly. Left, right, like a little fish swimming. That's why it's a tool.
When you publish this book, what will you feel? That's it. It will be ready and you'll take the first copy. What will you feel?
I'll feel like I did a good job, or I can check that off my list. I completed the task. Now we need to see how useful it will be and gather feedback, then translate it into other languages. There are 25 languages, and we'll keep collecting feedback, accumulating it, and preparing it. The next part will gather even more interesting stories.
You know, I talk to many business people.
Mission complete.
Mission complete? Yes. I talk to many business people, and when I ask them about their goals, of course, for 99% of them, the goals are related to business and numbers. You're one of the few who said that I have 29 goals, and one of them is to name a book. No.
The first goal was different. Improvement. Related to family, so family comes first for me. This year, it's also about improvement. There are different characters to sign a bit that now I will teach them to meditate using your method, to add to it. Well, but of all of them, I would single out this one, which it's such an interesting and bright goal. That's why I somehow singled it out from all the others. Well, there are some material goals, some stories related to those, and then there are also non-material ones, different kinds, yes, a lot of goals. But it's something quite unique.
Can you imagine flying on a plane and someone sitting next to you is reading your book?
I'll just fall right down. That's going to be awesome.
What are you going to feel when really,
In some Pashto language, of course, if I'm flying to Ethiopia, in Ethiopian, for example, and what are you going to feel? I don't know. I'll just sit next to this guy. I won't move away from him. It will be nice. I will be communicating to dig into his story, what kind of life he had, what was his sword of Damocles, how he resolved this situation in this book. You talk about your story, of course, about everything.
because very often, of course, in their own story, they give many people the opportunity not to go through that time. I always say that a book is a time machine because many authors of books had to live through 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years. They had to live through a huge amount of experience where they fell and got back up. And you have the unique opportunity to read this book and not live through it like he did. 30 years.
Will experience 100 years.
I understand, but in any case, in this case, you already have so much information that you shorten that time.
You just have a certain tool as a means of protection, something you can use, but still, you have to go through your own experience. You definitely need to go through that experience. You're like letters in a book. If you don't read, your kid will go through it. I agree with you. It's a bit easier, no? With the tools, a bit calmer. You don't want to jump, no? From the 22nd floor thinking, oh, that should have happened to me. Well, all right, thank God for this situation.
So, can you imagine that the person in this life, thanks to someone's book or something they heard, as you said, didn't do a certain action that could later compress their life into something terrible? And they, thanks to some experience, hearing, doesn't do that but moves on? That's important. So for me, a book is always a book. We are going today during the day, just before our podcast, I was with my son Miron. I have a meditation presentation tomorrow. I recorded a children's meditation with my son and daughter, a children's meditation, suggesting something. Yeah, and we're in the car listening to his meditation. In Russian. He's 10 years old, riding in the car, listening to his meditation, saying, Dad, I'm 10 years old and so happy. I made a meditation about berries. I understand that this will last for decades, maybe even hundreds of years. The trace of this will remain. And we're driving together just listening. And I say, son, I'm so proud of you because really not every adult can write like that with an open heart, like you did. And these will really last just like a book. So I would really like there to be as many people in our world as possible who leave such marks that can bring great benefit to others. So, huge respect to you. And I would like to say, at the end, all my guests who come put on headphones. Even Alan Peace put them on.
I saw yeah, I'm listening to him there.
I would like you to listen to this music right now, literally. 30 seconds. And then address yourself, who is 80 years old. AC. Yes, who's 80 years old. And you are addressing yourself from today's point, from this moment. You are addressing yourself who has already lived it all, who knows, who understands what experiences and challenges are still ahead of you. And so that you now, I wanted to tell my future self, when you're 80 years old, what you'd like to ask for. From that self who already knows everything, what will happen.
I probably wouldn't ask him for anything, but since he is still alive at 80, So life has been lived meaningfully. And he managed to accomplish a lot, because if he hadn't been on the right path, he definitely wouldn't have made it to this age. He would have been turned off ahead of time, so since he lived, handsome, enjoy it. I hope I bless you. I hope I'll be sitting in the cigar, the hat in the cabriolet, where San Morisco, and dancing. And that moment when you're doing yoga there, and how many books will you have written by that age? I don't really think about it. I don't think I'll become some kind of super author. I would like to write maybe 1 or 2 and then see how it goes. I'm not looking at it as if I'm going to publish a huge number of books. Now, let it be 1 or 2, but for a lifetime.
Then I would like, so that you can feel yourself right now, that same gray-haired handsome one, 80-year-old. You're talking about in the convertible. I want you to close your eyes now. I'll just close my eyes. Take a deep, slow breath. Tell W. And imagine yourself as much as possible. When you 8 years old, and you're sitting by the shore, the sea, next to your favorite mountains. You look at your children and grandchildren. You look at your beautiful family surrounding you. You remember your whole life. Tears well up in your eyes from happiness, from the fact that you've lived so much and done so much for yourself, for your family, and for others. And you remember yourself as a little 7-year-old, Anton. And what would you say to yourself? From that age of 80, that little boy, 7 years old, who still knew nothing. He did not understand how much he had to go through in this life.
I would say, make mistakes, enjoy yourself. Don't get upset when you make any mistakes. Find a reason to be happy for her.
And what would be that one word? What did he want to pass on? So that it would be with him throughout his life, something that would help him. Just one word. Persistence. And now keep watching and feeling how you're surrounded by your family, your loved ones, your relatives, your friends. Friends, children, grandchildren. And you realize that life isn't over yet, and it's just beginning. And because at 80 years old, you already feel completely renewed. And you understand that you can still be on this planet for many, many more years. In this beautiful body. On this beautiful earth.
Of course, I do yoga, so my body is in great shape at 80.
And now, with your eyes open, I would like you to speak to the camera to everyone who is watching you. From my age, now at 36, what would you wish for everyone who is watching you right now? Who might be in difficult situations? Who perhaps has no answers to their questions? Or someone who might feel lost?
What would you say to them right now? Any situation that you are given in life is given to you for a reason. You just have to find the right answer, the way out of it. And if it has been given to you, then it was meant to be. Most likely you created it for yourself. For that to happen, and the sooner you realize this, accept it, understand it, and find the right solution, the easier it will be for you to move forward in life, to feel fulfilled inside. Your soul will become calm and you will see the right path. Until then, as long as you're trying to find the answer to why this punishment or some mistake has happened to you, you won't be able to find the answer. Try to find exactly what you seem to have programmed for yourself. Somewhere in the code, this error, this problem, this difficult situation. As soon as you figure this out and step over it, everything will go perfectly right away.
How do you feel right now?
Good.
I want to tell you, I'm really grateful for being here. I even wanted to cry a little. I saw, but you held back. And I love the mountains. I would want you to not hold back if tears come to you right now, because you don't just love the city, you love the state that the mountains give you. Yes, and you are a bright example of how a person going through immense difficulties in their life has returned to themselves. If you were afraid to talk about the fact that you practice yoga, breathe, or go to an astrologer, today you're talking about it on camera because it really has given you that very silence. Those very opportunities, the most important moments of self-awareness, who you really are. And I think even you today in the studio sharing all this, maybe for the first time you realize how much you've done.
Well, in some ways, yes, I've started to see more. From another perspective, when you're speaking on camera, it's one thing, but when you're sitting by the fire alone, drinking tea, meditating in silence, that's something else.
I probably dreamed, no, I wanted, or better yet, if the word is intended, to see you in such a state your whole life.
Thank you.
That you really help people, to children. I'm sure you'll be creating something very interesting for children. Something like what you're saying today, where you'll say, wow, but it takes a lot of time to do all of that. I want to create something for children that is quick, comfortable, and clear for them, so that they realize it right now. I think all those goals you have right now, there will be goals related to children, not just with yours, but also with the children of the world. Because really, the children of the new generation are the ones who will live on this planet and will be in charge of it.
And they are connected because I make games and that my kids use. If my kids are messaging these games to their classmates, then they must be good games. So I test everything on them. They are my testers. So we are already focusing on the children.
I'm sure that
Other things, yes.
I'm sure that the games you're creating right now, they will carry not only for children to have a good time, but they will also be very educational for kids, in which they can really gain knowledge and understanding while playing.
Knowledge, yes. Or tempo, don't work. It's easier to teach kids mechanics through small, interesting things. You just need to fit in or whatever you can.
This is a cool tool, and I'm sure this won't be our last meeting, 100%. And we will later remember and say, remember when we were sitting in the studio, and now look at this game. And look at what we did with scientists and psychologists, with children. Look at how we gathered people, how we observed how the kids react, how this helps them. And I'm really proud of that. I have the opportunity to be with such people who are changing the world. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to address you all that today some of you found yourselves in your state for the first time. Has anyone heard something they've never heard before? Or maybe you've heard it before, but from a different angle. And I want to wish you just one thing, that your day today was the most eventful, like a little life. And tomorrow you will wake up in your new life. And so every day is like a new life, a new experience. And remember about the silence. Very, to keep the silence within yourself. And now we will listen to music through the headphones while you stay in silence. Always with you with love, Igor Sivov.